Let's talk about Black Ops 6. I was going to say the game of the moment. It definitely is in terms of player base. It definitely is in terms of sales. Entire countries requesting bigger bandwidth to make sure everybody can actually get online. And Matt Piscatella from Circana, the US data tracking firm, saying that, was it like 1/3 of all Americans who have a PS5 were playing Call of Duty or something like that?
Yeah.
So Black Ops 6, a massive success. I did feel like in the run-up to launch, I wanted more Game Pass associated marketing. I wanted them to make a bigger deal of it on Game Pass. And right now, there is that conversation on whether Call of Duty has moved the needle on Game Pass, whether it did get people buying Xboxes or whatever. That data will come in time. And we might touch on bits and pieces of that. But the game itself, me and you've not talked about it because you've both been away for the last few days. Thoughts on the old Blops?
Yes, well, I mean, I got a code through from Activision, so I've been playing it since Friday. And funnily enough, even though this is the game that I think is the most complete Call of Duty that we have had in a while, it's also the one that I'm going into least into Call of Duty overall, if that makes sense.
I
played the crap out of Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, especially when I was off work last year. It's actually abhorrent how much time I put in Modern Warfare 3, despite not even liking it that much. So I didn't know if this would get its hooks in me because I'm just kind of out the ecosystem and I was waiting for Warzone. That said, Scott, I personally have not been able to stop playing the multiplayer. I think it is absolutely silky smooth. I think they've addressed a lot of the issues that I had with the past couple of games. And like I said, it's kind of the most feature complete Black Ops especially game that we've had in a while. I think a lot of that has to do with the switch to the new engine, because this is using the engine that was popularized by Modern Warfare and I think made by Infinity Ward. Obviously, Treyarch themselves have tweaked it, but a big reason they said for even moving to Omni movement, which we'll definitely talk about, was because they had to build everything from the ground up anyway for this new engine, so they then were able to make innovations. I think that has been a real success. I think it feels as good as you want a game on this engine to feel, but I also think it retains that arcadiness that Treyarch kind of is more associated with, that speed, that less sort of plodding style of gameplay, and I'm pleased they managed to pull that off because this does feel like a Black Ops game. It doesn't just feel like a reskinned Modern Warfare kind of spin-off or anything like that.
There's something really weird here in terms of the speed and the general pace of gameplay and just how jacked up everything feels, where it almost feels like you're playing like a full game version of one of those insane 360 no-scope clips where someone's using like an aimbot or whatever it is. And we were talking over the weekend and you were saying like my brain's doing things that I'm not even consciously processing. I'm just reacting and I'm killing dudes. I'm finding, I don't know if this is a reflection on the skill-based matchmaking side of things or just the way you get matched up or whatever. I'm dominating at the minute.
Interesting.
And I play COD every year. And I'm not trying to brag about it. I just find that whatever hoppers it's putting me into, I'm doing very well. I'm coming first in teams. Even if my team loses, I'm at the top, or I'm winning a free-for-all or whatever it is. And some of that might be a general speed thing where like I've spent my year playing fighting games online, which like most years I'm playing stuff online, but for whatever reason, this is just clicking. But my point is that like when you get all this speed and this insane level of like synaptic response, I don't think it takes away from Call of Duty as an identity, but there is a conversation there about like how ludicrously over the top everything is, and I haven't kept up with all the like character packs and DLC that was added to I think the last couple of CODs where you got like was it Nicki Minaj and like King Kong and like John McClane and like whatever, and I was like, has this become the sort of like I can't even think of a way to phrase it necessarily, but this entirely or more so youthful focused, Fortnite adjacent, super fast TikTok generation shooter. And I was like, fine if it is, like it makes sense. Like you've got to make it evolve with the times and get a new audience in. And I can keep up with it for now, but it's just an interesting talking point, like the art direction of it. Like you've got like synthwave on the main menu, which is quite gritty. It's kind of like a cool song. Then it becomes like the bring the fire thing. Bring the fire. But I was like that alongside like the characters. I think the character designs look so forgettable. Just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Like Woods is like obviously a main character. And that's another thing is I've not kept up with the last couple of campaigns. But like you've got all the zombie characters in there, and I'm like, what is this really? What is this now? And like I've kind of missed. I play them every year, but I missed a beat in terms of keeping up with the long tail of like a Warzone or playing the zombies modes. And I was like, it's it's for everybody, and then it's so stretched thin in a way.
God, it is so funny you say that, because to me, again, as someone who plays these games all the time, this is the most cohesive, artistically Call of Duty game that they've released in ages. It's the first one where they haven't carried over previous unlocks or weapons or skins from the other game. Like, this is starting fresh, so you only have those operators right now. The store isn't full of like those Nicki Minaj skins or those Ghostface skins or whatever. But it's interesting to hear that you still think that it doesn't quite nail its aesthetic and feels a bit torn between maybe a bunch of different audiences, because I do definitely think that comes through, especially in the final winner's circle with the silly emotes that you can do or whatnot. But
weirdly animated them. Yeah,
weird sounds coming out of them sometimes as well. Yeah.
Okay.
But that said, I do think, for me, it does feel cohesive in a way that the past few haven't. Right. I do think that it is maybe more colorful. I like that. Sometimes I think Call of Duty is a bit drab. You know, I loved Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. I do not like the color grading on those games, or just how bland a lot of the levels appear. I think, at least in the multiplayer, we get a lot of variety and diversity here. We've got snowy levels, we've got rundown levels.
The environments are great.
Is it called Subsonic, where you've got the fighter jet in the middle? A lot of cool environments in that regard, but it's going to be interesting to see when it starts season 1 and it integrates Warzone and starts bringing in like those microtransactions and those skins and maybe some of those sillier things. It'll definitely double down on zombies, how it's going to feel, because this is the fastest COD in ages.
Ever, I would say.
Probably, almost certainly, if not definitely certainly. It's so fast, it feels like even on the big maps, you're always running into people, and I'm liking that.
Same.
But it will be interesting to see if any kind of lapsed fans return to this game and are just like, I'm getting wrecked by 12-year-olds who have just the reflexes of an absolute god tier video gamer.
I think we should throw in like the things that they've added. Like you can hold this, you can like tap a button to slide if you're sprinting, you can hold it to do a dive. Obviously the dive stuff got shared quite a lot across the beta in terms of like, this is an insane move to do in a firefight, but it is really fun to like dive around a corner and take somebody out. You can still mount your weapon on the sides like you have been able to for the last few games, so it's not like they've taken things out. But I just think it's interesting in terms of like I said, like identity for COD. Like, you've had the whole conversation around boots on the ground over the last few years. You had the pivot towards Infinite Warfare, and then like space age combat, and then Black Ops 4 was like the Overwatch style game. It was really over the top. This is just as over the top, more so in the gameplay side of things than character designs, but it's playing more like what the idea of what Black Ops 4 could have been. This plays so fast and is like that sort of TikTok shooter kind of thing. Still a Twitch shooter, it's still like a reflex heavy thing, which predates the whole TikTok generation thing anyway. But it's interesting that, like, I don't know, this works in a way that Black Ops 4 didn't.
Yeah.
I do think as well, like I said, the omnidirectional stuff, you can sprint sideways or sprint backwards. You play way more COD than me. Like, I play every year, but like overall, do you think there's any way they're not going back from this?
It's going to be interesting. I don't think Black Ops and the Treyarch games go back from this. I'll be really interested to see if it's incorporated in the next Infinity Ward game, because Modern Warfare 2 in particular, that was slow. If this is the fastest COD's ever been, that was maybe the slowest it's been in recent memory. And I like the variety. I don't like every Call of Duty feeling the same every single year. But truthfully, I've always erred towards the Infinity Ward games, even kind of at their worst with Modern Warfare 3 and Infinite Warfare. That said, I think that is a testament to how much this has impressed me, because I'm not really a Treyarch guy, but the changes that they've made with the Omni movement, like, I can't see them going back on that anytime soon, because it is such a breath of fresh air. It does make the gameplay feel that bit more kinetic and fluid. It adds so much to the skill gap. Like, I think part of the reason why the lobbies kind of at the moment don't feel like at least for me, don't feel like they're too aggressive with the skill-based matchmaking, is that one, everyone's trying to figure the maps out, which is normal, but two, everyone's trying to figure out the new movement, and you see, I think, a lot of people trying to do these flashy things of diving and sliding, but if you've got straight aim, if you're good at aiming, you'll kill them 9 times out of 10, right? You can do the flashy stuff, but if you're not matching that with accuracy and smart use of the environmental weapons, like, you're just going to get absolutely murdered and brutalized by someone who's just kind of like mounted up with a AK or whatever it is.
Oh man, we should throw in the fact, just when you said about mounting up, that reminded me of some of the campers that I've come across. So people just sitting, waiting. Like I know that finishing moves have been in COD for a while now, but you can grab dudes in like a chokehold, and proximity chats back as well.
Yeah.
Which is very old school Xbox Live, where like nearly everybody in the modern day isn't playing with a microphone on, but it is fun. The occasional person that you'll grab and they'll just be like, "Hey man, what the hell?" and you just kill them, and it's like that's great. Like that reminds me of old Xbox Live, and that's sort of like I don't know if it's like a showmanship side of it, like you're like ragging on someone or you're like dancing on someone it's like an old, like I said, it's an old school multiplayer vibe where it's like not only am I going to beat you, but I'm going to humiliate you for a while, and it's like that's kind of fun in a way that I think COD or most online games have steered away from, coming out of the Xbox 360 era, where obviously so many of those voice chats got really gross. People were sending horrible messages to each other, voice recordings, whatever it was, and I think the solution to that was to ban all of it or get away from it for quite some time. Then people were less bothered about using microphones anyway, but proximity chat's awesome, and I think like little modes, little features like this are really fun.
I'm not gonna lie, everyone gets muted by default in my games, but even with that said, it is humiliating to get taken as a human shield by someone and then getting executed in the middle of a game mode. I do like those additions. Honestly, speaking of game modes, I know you're more of a free-for-all and team deathmatch guy, but
I'll just do everything now.
The HVT mode, the high-value target mode that's in this game, is my favorite new addition to a Call of Duty core multiplayer experience, maybe in a decade. It's the best game mode for me that I think they've introduced. I think it's probably even better than Gunfight in Modern Warfare 1. In this, if you don't know, essentially it's like kind of like a team deathmatch, you know, just your regular squad versus squad game. But you cycle through these high-value targets on each team, which gives you more points if you kill them, but also gives that person buffs. You know, they've got armor plates on, so they have a little bit more health than you. And that kind of push and pull of wanting to kill the other team's high-value target while trying to protect yours, I found that absolutely sensational, man. It's like I'm kind of, you know, beholden to my own habits in COD sometimes. I play hardpoint, I play domination, I play kill confirmed. I've got my game modes, and it takes a lot for me to add a new one into the mix, but this is kind of all I want to play right now, and I think that's great because I think multiplayer has been a little bit stale in COD for a little while now. It's kind of been the same guns, same types of map, the same perks, the same kill streaks, and it's not like this completely gets away from that, but just having one interesting new mode does a lot, and it goes a long way.
They've tried a few times across the last few years to try and shake it up. Like there was that one, I forget which COD it would have been in, but when they brought in the massive maps.
Yes, that was Modern Warfare, the 2019 one with Ground War.
Yeah, Ground War. And it felt like that was them going like, well, Battlefield's kind of coming back, but it's a bit on the, like it's kind of waning. Let's do our version of Battlefield with vehicles and make that stuff work. Which I don't think that's in here.
No, which is a shame, I think. Yeah.
Right. They might get back to putting it back in because I guess in theory you've got a whole year's worth of stuff to roll out. But yeah, COD multiplayer, I think it's super easy. Obviously they give you the option to tick box whichever modes you want to search for. They're all on by default, but it's super easy to just restrict it down to be like, I'm just going to do TDM, Team Deathmatch. They took my M4 out, so I can't use that. I've got to use an X9 or something.
XM4.
Yeah.
It's more or less the same.
It's more or less something that fires fast, I will take. But yeah, I think that it's super easy to lock yourself into those modes. Like that's another thing I was going to talk about is like, we've been doing this for a long time. Like Call of Duty's been going for a long, long time. And obviously it's older than, you know, the original one was like 2001 or 2002, maybe 2003 actually. But point being that it's been going for a very long time. And there's something about it being on Game Pass. And I saw a couple of tweets saying this. It wasn't about Call of Duty changing Game Pass. It was about Game Pass changing Call of Duty. Where like that kind of goes hand in hand with just how many people are trying this out. And I'm so curious in the statistics for the player numbers, the retention, like, is this getting people in who are like, I effing love Call of Duty and I'm going to stick around all year? Or have you made it more casual? Because I found it to be more easily discardable across the weekend because I didn't pay for it. Like I just got it on Game Pass. And so it was easy to sort of like drop in, do a few matches, you know, try a few different modes. Cool, I'm back out. Like, there's no pull. Like, I feel that the game, like, the wider Game Pass library feel now applies to Call of Duty, where it's like, it's there if you want it, don't worry about it. Like, it's part of your monthly subscription. You've not really invested any time in it. Whereas, like, and we, like I said, thankfully we got a code for it. But if I'd paid the £70, I would have rinsed it a lot more to get my money's worth. Kind of thing. And I'm curious if that applies across the board.
I think you're probably onto something. I mean, it being on Game Pass, I don't think is going to suddenly make Game Pass Pass this huge thing. I don't even necessarily think it's going to shift more Xbox consoles. I think it will be a situation of, hey, you know what? I've not played a Call of Duty in a while. I'm going to jump in here. Or the people who own an Xbox who do get Call of Duty every year, it's an extra bonus. It's, hey, I don't need to pay for it. I don't need to pay full price at least for it this year. I am interested to see like the wider numbers and whether it does affect retention, like you mentioned there. Because, yeah, we do know that, 1/3 of every one in the US with the PlayStation 5 is playing Black Ops 6 now. I always think Call of Duty generally is so casual that it's, for a lot of people, for a lot of the player base, not everyone, of course, myself included, but it's going to be one of the few games they pay for every year. So I don't think it necessarily being on Xbox Game Pass and not completely exclusive will sway anyone who currently owns a PlayStation to that platform, because it's not even that good of a value proposition if that's the only game you buy every year. Like, yeah, in the long term, maybe, but if you're looking up one $70 purchase in 2024 versus a $400+ purchase to get it for quote unquote free, like, it's probably not the best choice. It's only a good choice if you're getting COD and this and that and all of this other stuff that's coming to Game Pass, right? So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see if this shifts the needle at all for Xbox. But yes, whether it does impact the player base and does it bring in people who have never tried the game before, and do they stay? Do they stay for season one, or does it just surge at launch and then people kind of drop off because, like you said, they do view it as more discarded because they haven't paid 70 quid for it? It's an interesting experiment.
I think some of this stuff on the UI side is interesting as well. Like when you, like, they are pushing the Vault Edition as much as possible. Like, I remember when Forza Horizon 5 came out, and that was obviously on Game Pass, but then the standard version of that still sold really well and was like one of the best-selling games of the year. So it's like you can have your cake and then sell it too. Like you can have unit sales and Game Pass. And it's I was going to mention the UI because when you boot up the Call of Duty UI, I think a lot of people will be surprised by the Call of Duty HQ stuff. Right. Where it's just a launcher, and then it launches it tries to suggest that you buy the Vault Edition every time you boot it up.
Right.
The highlight goes on that, and it acts like you don't own it, but you have to go one to the right and then you can go into Black Ops 6. That sucks. That's a really sneaky way of convincing some portion of the populace that they don't actually own Black Ops. They need to fork out for it, I think. And then once you're inside, the campaign is just minimized. Like it's got the same it's 1/3 of the screen, but it's like multiplayer, zombies, and campaign. If it's over there if you want it. Whereas like that's so interesting that a full blockbuster, extremely expensive campaign is just alongside these other modes. Like it has been in other games as well. Yeah. But the way the UI goes hand in hand, it's like you're going to punch through the main launcher of all the CODs to get into Black Ops, and you're probably just going to go multiplayer. And then there's a lot of buzz around the new zombies mode. So it's like
a lot of buzz around the new campaign mode.
Yeah, even though IGN reviewed it really well.
Yeah.
But I just think it's interesting the way that they are, like the way that it sits right now, where it's part of Game Pass. You've got this launcher. The way that it comes up saying it'll be 320 gigs to download. That's for everything. Like that's if you installed every Call of Duty that's on that launcher, which is Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops Cold War, whatever. And so once you navigate that and then go, I only want Black Ops 6, it's like 11 gig or something. It's way less.
I had to delete almost everything off my PlayStation to install it, Scott. I think by the time I was done with the culling, there was only Silent Hill 2 and Call of Duty left.
Is that maybe that's a PS5 Xbox thing then? Because on the Series X, it brings up everything you could install. I got rid of everything.
Right.
Just Black Ops 6 is all I wanted, and it only installed it was like 11 gig or something.
Interesting.
I kept everything else on my Xbox. I wouldn't have installed it if it wanted me to wipe everything out. I was quite pleasantly surprised with the file handling on Xbox.
Maybe I missed something there then.
Sony's notoriously terrible for like making you install twice the space, free up twice the space.
Yeah, that was
to get everything installed. Did you have to free up 300 and...
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was all in. I think it was about 280 that I needed
That's still
to get rid of. But it still meant I had to delete a lot of games and a lot of capture that I had. Fortunately, I had a lot of review capture that I no longer needed, so that got to go. But I was looking over the many, many Warzone clips I've accumulated over the years thinking, I might have to get rid of some memories here. I might have to get rid of them, or at least maybe invest in a hard drive. I do want to say, Scott, I know we've talked about it more generally. I do have some criticisms about Black Ops 6, but I will concede that a lot of those are just my bugbears with Treyarch's Call of Duties generally. Map voting is back. I think it might have been back in MW3 as well, but it's definitely back here. I don't love that. I never really loved map voting. Ooh. It's meant that even though there are a lot of maps at launch in the multiplayer, I've played about 5 of them over and over and over again because people keep voting for the same ones. I have played Rewind so many times. It is in my brain. So I don't love that, but I mean, that's not unique to this game. I think perks are interesting this time around because I feel like they're more minimized than they've ever been in a way.
There's a whole side to this where I'm like, I'm holding left trigger, then I'm hitting the right trigger. And it all works very, like, you can tell me that I'm aiming a bit faster, but I barely.
Yeah, it's like the base perks are kind of some of the basic ones that we've had forever, Ghost and Gung Ho and whatnot, Fast Hands. I think there's an interesting system where if you match 3 of the same colored perk, you get a kind of specialist perk on top of that. I think some of those are useful. There is one that allows you to literally kind of wall hack at the beginning of a match and see the outline of every enemy player, which is very useful. But the other ones, I don't find all of that. I don't know. I don't find them all that efficient. Like, you get a movement buff after a kill. It doesn't really work for my playstyle. Other people's mileage might vary. And then you get like these kind of like tactical cards that you can use, which gives you stuff like Overkill, which is 2 primary weapons, or spawning with an extra tactical grenade. And they're all interesting. I just feel like kill streaks and perks this time around aren't necessarily the focus, which I'm fine with because I do think the skill gap is increased with the Omni movement, and that's definitely the primary focus of Black Ops 6, but it's just an interesting thing to kind of wrangle with, I suppose.
It's not, I think, again, I don't know if this comes down to just having done this every year for about 20 years, that like, I don't really care about the build side of it that much anymore. Like, I'm unlocking stuff, like, I'm going to hop in, do the gunsmith, let me get, okay, I'm going to aim a little bit faster, I'm going to reload a little bit faster, bigger clip, better sight, whatever it is, same stuff every year. Like, for me, I'm in there because it plays a lot faster. I can mantle, I can get around a lot faster, I can get the drop on dudes. I can do little ambushes where someone goes around and I dive around the other way to take them out. That's why I'm there. And it's part of it's scratching the Titanfall 2 itch a little bit. Obviously, you're not in the air, you're not using the grapple hook like in Titanfall, but the speed of it is there. And it's like, I wasn't playing Titanfall for the build to a degree. Like, you get different unlockable ultimate weapons, but it's not really why I'm there. It was the movement. It was just to be in the game. Like, that's why I always like my COD to be nice and I like the sweaty stuff because I'm not going to be playing it for hours on end.
Right.
So it's like, we talked about, it's almost like a meme, but I quite liked M4, Shipyard. Is it Shipyard? Shipment. And just get me in there. I like the stupid fast speed of it. And so this Black Ops 6 is the most stupid fast speed COD's ever been. Like, it absolutely goes. And so I quite like that, but it does almost come at the expense of, like, even being able to play with a build, like to experiment with a build, it's like you need to be on it when you're in a match because, like, if you're like, I mean, you can hit a button and go into the firing range, but if it is that thing of like, I'm going to just try a sniper build for a minute, it's like, if you don't immediately click with that, you're just getting wiped out again.
Yeah, that's true. No, 100%. I think that's maybe where the SBMM comes in as well, because it does, I think, encourage you to play in very specific ways and use the meta weapons and use the most optimum build, whether that's in the game or whether it's just for your personal play style. And honestly, I know it's controversial. I know it really is controversial. That's what I liked a lot about Modern Warfare 2 and its upgrade system, because in that game, to unlock weapons, to unlock attachments, it forced you to use specific weapons. And I don't think that always gelled with the aggressive SBMM, which would maybe punish you for trying to get experimental, but I like that the option was there. Whereas this time, I do think we're kind of maybe back to that more casual approach of, like, find your gun, stick with it, and use that for the entire thing. I want it to be a bit more experimental. Maybe I'll discover that the more I play. I'm only 15 hours into the overall experience. Haven't unlocked everything to my knowledge. But it's, I don't know. I still get a lot out of making builds, but maybe that's because I'm thinking of Warzone as well, which isn't integrated yet, but I'm thinking, this would be good to build it this way for the map that I'm going to be playing on. Whereas here it is like, if you've got good accuracy, and as long as you've got a gun that isn't severely underpowered, you're probably going to have at least a fighting chance, right?
That's the thing. And it's like, I've had the XM4, the AK, and then on a couple of the different shotguns that you get. And it's like, if it's a small map, I'm shotgunning. If it's everything else, it's assault rifles. And then occasionally I'll try a sniper build. And this will apply to the last few CODs. Like, it's just, we're refining like a hair's breadth of difference between most of the weapons. That's been the case for ages now. But when you really crank up the gameplay, we're talking about nanoseconds of difference now, which is kind of crazy. And it's like, there is that feeling that the younger people who are coming up, who are playing it, are going to be playing at that speed. And it's like, okay, we are talking about refining a build to get the jump on someone within a hair's breadth of pushing a trigger or whatever.
That's it. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I don't even know if this is true, but I know that the previous games had completely different hitboxes for limbs and torso and whatnot, and headshot multipliers were a big thing in the most recent Call of Duties. Like, you hit your headshots, you can take someone out. I might be entirely wrong by this, but even though I get the headshot market this time around, I don't feel like I'm doing more damage,
Same,
and I'm
yeah.
still getting absolutely annihilated. And I'm interested in how that's going to affect the skill gap going forward, because there are some times where I felt it, obviously not unfair, but I feel like I should have won a gunfight because I'm landing more accurate hits, and someone shooting me in the leg, and I'm getting absolutely annihilated in like 3 shots.
There is inside the gunsmith, you can hit like the details button. It's like X on Xbox, probably triangle on PS5, and it brings up like a skeleton body of how many damage points you do per limb. And the difference from like arm and body to head was only like 10 points more. It was like in the 20s for the body and then like 30 something for the head.
Right.
And so it is that thing of like, because the hit marker, even when you do hit the head, does the double dash thing, like the double marker thing. So I'm like, I'm getting a headshot, but the dude's just tanking it. And it's like, I'll take a first person shooter and a multiplayer with a long time to kill. I like having a dance with another player.
Yeah, me too.
And dodging and weaving and everything else. And maybe I have more abilities that I can use. So I do the trade-off I'll take, but it is funny that you're shooting a dude in the face and they don't go down straight away. But then certain weapons are strong enough.
It's the classic Call of Duty online situation where it's just the servers they use at this point. But sometimes it feels like you get 10 hit markers and then the person will just eat them and knock you out in 3. And it's like, that is not a problem with Black Ops 6 specifically. It's just the COD mold. And I guess at this point, it's something we've got to put up with it. But it doesn't make it can make that launch weekend feel a little bit more frustrating, where you're always thinking, is it because I need to get better in certain ways, or is it because, does it feel unfair?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, am I getting shot by the server more than the person? Like, I've had a couple of matches like that just because of how many people were playing across the weekend. Where you're like dumping a clip into the side of a guy and they just turn and blap and you're done. It's like, come on, man. Like, I had that. But overall, definitely the most well-received COD in quite some time, especially against how badly Modern Warfare 3 went down last year. But we'll keep our eyes peeled for statistics going forward in regards to how much it impacts Game Pass and things like that.